Welcome everybody, I'm 6am Comics, and if you haven't guessed it, this is a very special Christmas-themed edition of reviewing my 9-year-old's comics. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do for Christmas time here, but almost as though it were a Christmas miracle, Nolan just randomly decided to create a Christmas-themed Super Nolan issue. And so, Merry Christmas, we're gonna take a look at that today. So, join me as we review Super Nolan in Christmas and Crime. Let's have a look. Let's just get this out of the way so I don't have to attempt to explain this down the road. Yes, you are seeing the number 17 at the top of this comic. No, we did not skip over 13 comics in Super Nolan 3. Let me try and break down the numbering system as best I can, because Nolan and I went back and forth on this for a solid 10 minutes while he attempted to explain it to me. So, it goes like this. There's a series of Super Nolan comics which take place within a Super Nolan universe. We already know the big three, Super Nolan 1, Super Nolan 2, and Super Nolan 3. However, we also have the inclusion of various in-between issues such as Super Nolan 2.5, as well as Birthday Blues. And while it would be simple to think of these like a movie franchise, wherein you would have the major releases followed by a bunch of made-for-Netflix specials and maybe a spin-off television series in between, it's not that simple. Not by a long shot. Instead, you need to think about the Super Nolan franchise like so. Super Nolan 3 is simply the title of what is technically the 9th comic book in the series. So if Super Nolan 3 were to be released today with a number in the upper left, like your standard comic shop floppy, it would carry the number 9 and present the subtitle of 3. Everything after Super Nolan 3 would be numbered accordingly as 10 through 23. The reboot issues don't count, as if this weren't confusing enough already.
But hold on, Six. We've already reviewed 5 of these comics. Where are the other 18?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's have a look at the current Super Nolan timeline of releases, as best I can gather. The first Super Nolan comic isn't even a Super Nolan comic at all. It's called Ultra Charlie. And despite predating the conception of Super Nolan, it does end with Ultra Charlie coming into the care of the boy who would one day become our famous superhero. Ultra Charlie would later be known as Super Charlie, but it has no relation to the short stories we've already reviewed on this channel, so forget those for now. Still with me? I didn't think so. But let's carry on. Following Ultra Charlie, we have the famous Super Nolan 1, followed by Super Nolan 2. After this, we have Super Nolan 2.5, as well as the follow-up issue, which I created for Nolan's birthday this year, confusingly named Super Nolan 2.5 Part 2. Speaking of birthdays, issue number 6 would be considered the one-page comic known as Birthday Blues, then another one-page issue which was actually drawn on the front of a plastic folder, which has no title, so I simply call it the Super Nolan onesie. Strangely enough, Worldwide War is considered issue number 8, mainly because it ties directly into our aforementioned number 9, Super Nolan 3. Next up we've got a digital comic titled Super Nolan and the Wannabe, and an epilogue to Super Nolan 3 titled Super Nolan 3.5. And this brings us directly into a hefty series of floppies in which we finally see the number system have any relevance, beginning with number 12, On My Way Back. So anyway, all of that so that I can explain why this very special Christmas issue of Super Nolan has a giant number 17 in the corner. I also understand I'm skipping over a significant amount of comics to review this issue, but don't worry, none of them tie in directly. Beginning with the overall presentation, this issue, like the other floppies, is presented in black and white and is drawn in pencil, a deviation from the standard Super Nolan graphic novels, which is utilized for the sake of fast production. And by fast, I mean he's cranked out about 11 of these books in little over 2 weeks. Worldwide Comics, efficiency at its finest. Now let's get into the story before this review becomes an hour-long rant about comic book output. So there's this guy, and he was born with fire powers. Ooh la la! As this individual is casually walking by an alley with a wad of cash in his hand, he's confronted by a mugger. Give me all your money! With zero hesitation, the superpowered man breathes fire and consumes the assailant in flames. As the robber continues to burn, a nearby police officer misinterprets the situation. He lit him on fire and took his money! Shocked by the officer's words, our victim cries, No, I didn't! Not convinced, the officer handcuffs the fire breather, enraging him to the point that he rips the handcuffs off and launches the officer into the horizon. Just then, a voice from off-panel calls out to the heated individual. No pun intended. Hi, smiley face, fiery face. Why, who else would it be but our beloved Super Nolan? He soars through the air as flames burst skyward in his direction. Ooh, a feisty one. Almost got my butt, he exclaims, following a near miss with a stream of fire. However, Super Nolan spoke too soon as smoke billows out from beneath his cape. You did. Taking advantage of Super Nolan's vulnerable situation, a paparazzi takes a photograph of Super Nolan's burning rump. Get shot! Okay, I need to pause for a moment. Nolan has been using this term a lot lately to refer to people's rears. I just now looked it up because he has a habit of hearing stuff and repeating it without knowing if it's appropriate for a 10-year-old to say or not. Anyway, it's an acronym, and he's spelling it wrong. That's all I'll say about that. Now, where was I? Distracted by the intrusive photographer, Super Nolan turns to find that his fiery villain has fled the scene, leaving a pile of ash. I really hope that's not the guy he lit on fire. Super Nolan returns to his apartment frustrated. As he walks into the house, he's greeted by his former enemy turned friend, Frank F. Frank, who's decked out in Santa gear and gives a jolly ho ho. Ho? He got away! Super Nolan shouts as he rips off his mask. Oh, forget about that. It's Christmas Day! In an effort to cheer up his friend, Frank declares a snowball fight, intriguing Nolan as he whips a snowball in Frank's direction at sonic speed, slapping him in the face. Hundreds more snowballs begin bombarding Frank until he finally admits defeat from beneath the massive pile of snow. You win! Just then, the speakers in the apartment complex warn the residents that there's a fire in the building and they must evacuate. Him. We cut to the unnamed man of flame wandering through the building. Super Nolan spots him and presents himself for battle. In the corner, our hero spots a bucket of sand. Thinking fast, he grabs the bucket and hucks it at his opponent. The fiery man uses his powers to heat the sand into glass. Taking the glass, he throws it at Super Nolan, and it smashes into our protagonist. It's a smash hit! Super Nolan retaliates with his ice breath, which creates a massive block of ice which our villain narrowly avoids. Remaining on the offensive, Super Nolan utilizes his laser eyes and quickly melts the block of ice just as the enemy lands behind it for cover, sending water splashing into the fiery menace, putting out his fire and knocking him unconscious. As Super Nolan smiles, we end our story with a Merry Christmas, though not everybody in this issue is as welcoming of the gesture. What a fun Christmas time adventure, which not only gives us our fair share of holiday-themed action, but also presents us with a dark introspective on how just one bad misjudgment can turn the seemingly innocent into the monster they've been mistaken for. Our fiery foe didn't begin the story as a villain. For all intents and purposes, he was just as jovial as anybody else in that city, enjoying the snowfall on a white Christmas morning. However, his life sadly took a dark turn in an effort to defend himself from an ill-intentioned criminal out to ruin the holiday. To add to this tragedy, had the fire-breathing man simply gone willingly to jail, he may have had an opportunity to prove his innocence in court, or be found guilty all the same. Under different circumstances, it's very possible that given Super Nolan's proximity to the situation, the thief would have been swiftly brought to justice had he gotten away with the money. Perhaps lighting a man on fire is too extreme a response to robbery. I mean, the mugger wasn't even armed. He just had a shirt that said, "Evil equals live." Though he did have pretty crazy eyes, and if I learned anything as a child, it's that pointing is extremely rude. So, yeah, it probably justified. I'll allow it! Maybe this man was simply born into a society destined to ruin him. Reading through this comic book, the themes go a little hard for Christmas. Lots of political undertones. We're only on page 1 and already we're hitting topics like taxation, gun control, government overreach, criminal reformation, climate change? Jeez, Nolan. You couldn't just make a comic about Santa Claus fighting aliens, could you? And there you have it. Super Nolan, Christmas and Crime. I'm going to go ahead and give this a rating of, 12 drummers drumming. In any case, that's really all I got. I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. Stay safe. Enjoy your families. And, we definitely have no shortage of these Super Nolan floppies to review in the new year. He's been cranking these things out like Santa's workshop upstairs for like the last week and a half. Anyway, that's all I got. Ho ho ho.